Hello, everyone, and thank you for coming to our virtual presentation on the inclusive learning environment in a 360-degree panoramic view. First off, I just wanted to give a little background. My name is Jamie McIntyre, and I am one of 4 of the adapted physical education consulting teachers in Charlotte-Mecklenburg schools located in North Carolina. Presenting with me today are my coworkers Doug Smith and our lead Amy Clark. Our job is to support the PE teachers. They are the direct service providers, but we complete the students' evaluations, co-teach with them, and provide resources, ideas, and even collaborate with the EC teachers, who are also known as the special ed teachers in other districts. What I'm showing you right now is our website. When we went virtual last March, we decided that our website would be the best way to continue to share resources with our PE teachers. This way we weren't sending emails every day or every time we found something new. Since March, this website has evolved into an all-in-one. Our PE teachers and our special ed teachers can go onto our website to find just about anything related to APE. On here, you can also see the bit.ly link for our website. I'm going to scroll down so I can show you that. Here's the website link, bit.ly/CMSAPE, all caps. Write that down if you want to look through our website. It's also the easiest way to come back here and find our 360. Which is located right here under What's New. It's also located if you go to PE Teachers, then CMS APE Resources. It's under there too. We decided to do a 360 after attending a PDP last January, and we hope that it's a great resource for our PE teachers to see what a typical setup of a gym could look like and what resources they could have. All the things in our 360 are resources that we share with every PE teacher in person and on paper. However, having it all in one will hopefully remind them of these things and continue to reinforce them. So now I'm going to open up our 360 so you guys can look at it. And here we go. Please note that when looking at our 360, that all of the numbers, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, are part of our schedule or structure of class. Any of the X's, so anything over here, are things that should be avoided. And any of the stars, see the stars, the green stars, are resources that are typically linked to something else. Now Doug is going to take over and tell you a little bit about universal design and how that's incorporated into our 360.
Okay, thanks, Jamie. So as our team was beginning to create this 360 project, we looked at the framework and the philosophy of universal design for learning. And it really became the backdrop and the foundation for this project. If you're not familiar with universal design for learning, I would encourage you to research it, dive into it a little bit. It really helps you to ask some questions about what are the best practices for students with disabilities and for all students of all abilities. It helps you to look at some different strategies and techniques that address the needs of all these students, but gives access to the curriculum. It helps to eliminate barriers in terms of accessing that curriculum. So as you look around in our 360 project, you'll see the numbers and you'll see the stars. And a lot of those are strategies and techniques that are universal design that would work not only in a small group setting, but can work in a gen ed setting as well. So universal design for learning focuses on providing accessibility to the widest possible range of students. It's about being proactive and in designing your environment to make sure it gives students the most successful access to the curriculum. Some of these strategies include visuals and schedules, instant activities, a variety of levels of engagement, and a variety of different equipment that students can choose from or you can help students choose from. I want to give you a couple other examples of universal design. I'm going to share another couple of pictures with you. This is one of my favorite cartoons. And it talks about, it shows students trying to get access to their school on a snowy day. And the school worker is shoveling the snow off of the stairs. And there's a student who uses a wheelchair and he says, could you please shovel the ramp, which is right next to the stairs? And he basically says, well, as soon as I finish shoveling the stairs so we can get most of the students in, I will then shovel the ramp. But he says, but if you shovel the ramp first, we can all get in. So a perfect picture of accessibility, of showing you that the ramp is the universal design strategy there. One other picture to give you an idea about it, an automatic door. You see these at a hospital or a doctor's office or at a grocery store, and you think, well, this is a great idea for someone who does use a wheelchair. But think about how many other people can benefit from this tool. If someone's escorting a patient into the hospital, if you are like many people right now, you don't want to touch doorknobs, perfect way to enter the building. And if you're carrying too heavy bags in your hands and you need help, assistance accessing that building, perfect for that as well. So that automatic door becomes a universal design strategy for you to access the building. And in our case, what we're talking about is accessing the curriculum. All right, I'm going to go back to our 360 now. Okay, starting at number one of the great things about this 360 project is how it's so interactive. When you click on a number, you will get more specific information related to that area of the gym. And so you'll see that here at the front door, you have the rules and the expectations entering the gym. But first, it is so beneficial as the physical educator to meet and greet students as they enter that door. It's important to help the teachers that are coming in with the students, to give them assistance, to greet each student by name, say hello to them, and help them have access to your gym environment. And again, I'll click on number one. And the other part to that is establishing that positive routine right from the very start and having some rules and expectations. Now, for our students that are attending small group, it's usually more beneficial to use a schedule rather than just go over rules. So having a schedule that tells them what's first and what's next when they're finished, that usually works really well for some of those students. But in general, as a universal design, it's great to have rules and expectations posted. And I like the rule of three, where you have 3 rules that are very specific, that are very to the point, very simple, and that also have visuals along with them. Really help students know and understand what is the expectation as they come in to the gym. Moving over to number 2, our number 2 section is called lap time. So after you have greeted them as they come into the gym, get them started in as soon as possible, an ASAP or an instant activity. Let that be the routine, something that they start first thing as they enter. And during lap time, they start at a cone and they will go around the gym doing laps around the 4 corners of the gym. You can use cones, any kind of markers that will determine directional ways to go around the gym. And it's important because it gets them moving as soon as possible. And it helps you to focus on some of their goals that are related to locomotion. So you can play music during this time. It's a great time to play upbeat music, have students walking, jogging, doing other locomotor activities. It's also important to maybe help them feel what those locomotor movements feel like. One way you can do that is by playing a drum and providing a rhythm. So a physical education teacher could play a drum slow, and that would signal a walk. And the physical education teacher could play the drum a little faster, which would elicit a running motion or a jogging motion around the gym. And then you could play an offbeat rhythm, which might signal a gallop or a skip as they go around, and then maybe a single beat on a drum to signify a hop. So get them started quickly doing locomotor activities. Now let me address the two X's here. As Jamie said, the X's being caution or something that you want students to avoid. So if you have extra equipment, gymnastics equipment, in this case, extra basketball goals or anything that you need blocked off, it's a good idea to put a barrier up, mats up, or some kind of partition to block something that you don't want them to get distracted with. And then same thing with the gym door, your office door rather, you do want to close that so they do not get distracted in your office. And then moving over to the stars. So remember we talked about the stars and the numbers are great strategies. I'm going to click on that and it's going to talk about the 6 S's of equipment. So I'm going to click on the 6 S's here. And what comes up is an article from Dr. Healy, and it was posted by our Adaptive Physical Education Advisory Council here in North Carolina. And he talks about the 6 different S's in relation to equipment and using a variety of equipment to help our students become successful. And so you see that providing a variety of sizes of equipment, maybe a larger ball would help students be a little more successful. The sound of the ball, if you have students that need auditory support, giving them a bell ball or a beat ball would help it to be more successful. In general, having support such as a suspended ball, a tee, or a ball on top of a cone to help them support in case they have a hard time, students may have a hard time with a tossed object or a tossed ball to them and trying to strike it. The surface of equipment. So this can be adding texture to a ball or equipment for a better grip and a better handle. Things like a bumpy ball or a squishy ball may help them catch, be more successful with that kind of texture and surface. And the speed of the ball. Think about equipment that if you toss it or roll it, it's not going to go all the way across the gym or escape from them so that they have to run around and chase it. Think about a beanbag being tossed to a target. It's going to land and it's going to kind of stay there. So providing different types of equipment that may help with a slower speed. And then switches are great use of assistive technology. For example, if you have a student that needs to use a switch to project the ball down a bowling ramp. So very important there as well. So great things to think about in terms of providing multiple types of equipment to provide success. And these are universal strategies that help students to become successful and to give them the best access to their curriculum. All right, on to Jamie now.
Thanks, Doug. Now we're going to talk about group time, which is number 3 on our 360, right here. Group time happens after lap time, and typically it's some type of stretching, full body movement, or warm up to a dance or song. Each student should have their own personal space marker, so they are aware of where they should be standing to complete these movements. For us, we use poly spots in this 360, but you can use tape on the floor or floor paint or any of those options, or anything that works for you. The microphone right here is actually noting where the PE teacher should be standing during group time. Your back should always be towards the wall so that you can see your whole class and help each and every one of them. The next thing we have is our visual packet that we created a little bit over a year ago. That's right here under those stars. Visuals benefit everyone in APE. They provide reinforcement and prompting without using your words, not overwhelming the students. On here is a bit.ly link to our how-to video right here. bit.ly/visuals how-to, and make sure you capitalize the V, the H, and the T, otherwise you won't get there. But today, I'm just going to go through what we provide in our visual packet. So we're going to open that up. The first in here is the APE small group checklist, which tells some great ideas about how APE should work. So here is our small group checklist. The things that are included in here are the physical structure and visuals, communication strategies, teaching strategies, and even data collection or assessments. So that just gives you an idea of what should be expected in your class. And if you need help with any of those, we hope that our PE teachers reach out to us so we can come out and help or include in any of those strategies. The next thing in here we have is our AP handout, classroom management. We are also going to go over this in just 1 minute because this is also the schedule that we're going to go over. So that's our small group adapted PE schedule. So if you just wait 1 minute, we'll go over that. The next thing in here is our class schedule for you to print out and you can laminate. This can be used in class. You can make a big one or just a sheet of paper. And this is where you put all your picture symbols down the line so you can see, or so the students can see what is expected of them for this class. They know how it starts and how it ends. The next thing here is the first then board, which most of you I'm sure know, but first is the work that they're going to do, and then is the rewards. So it might be that you need them to dribble 10 times, and then they get a 1 minute break, anything like that. The next thing we have is our lanyard. So we print these all out and then we laminate them, and you can hook them right onto your lanyard so there's easy access to grab them. These are the typical quick picture symbols that you might need. Stand up, sit, walk, any of those, stop what you're doing, or it's time to work. And just because it's a desk, work is still in PE, they still need to do whatever is asked of them in phys ed, even though it's in the gym and they might not be sitting at a desk. The next thing we have is large picture symbols. Those are just used as if you want to print them out bigger, but we also have the smaller ones that you can use on the smaller schedule. So you print them out, you cut them, and then you put them on the schedule. I'm sure some of you, if not all of you, have a visual schedule that you use, but these are the ones that we provide to our PE teachers. These are very basic, and there's obviously a lot more that we can share, but we just provide these to start, and then they can ask us for as many more as they need. The other thing right here is our numbered stations. So these are just big numbers, and then we just say place your picture cue or visual here. So you might use these for lap time to tell them you got 1, 2, 3, 4 to do your laps. But then these can also be used for your stations. So once lap time is done, you'll use the numbers and you'll put a picture here. Like maybe this station is basketball, so you put a picture of a basketball on 1, and maybe station 2 is specifically dribbling, so you put a picture of someone dribbling a basketball right there. The next is the stop sign. So we typically give our teachers about 4 of these, but if they need more, we will supply more, or they can print them out on their own and laminate them themselves. We say to use these on any doors on the outside or any stairs, anything that's unsafe that you don't want teachers, you don't want students going on. And the last thing in here is our EC assistants in PE. So it's how to utilize your assistants in PE, whether, it might be your teachers too, the students' teachers that come in, but typically it's the teacher assistants that come in to help our students. So it just gives you some things that they should be expected to do. And if you're ever having difficulty with an assistant, you can always hand this to them just as a reminder that our students are still supposed to be working in adaptive phys ed, but they need to be helping them just like they would in the classroom. So it just goes through and has some activity ideas on the back. The last thing in here I'm not going to show you, but it just goes over what's in the visual packet. That's just for us. We print it out and put it on the folder before we hand it to a teacher, so we know that everything's included. All right, so we're going to go back to the 360. So I'm going to click the next thing, which is that schedule. So I wanted to go a little bit more in depth in this APE schedule. So I want to take 1 more minute to go over this. Having a schedule in place that all students can see as soon as they enter, so they know what is expected of them, will allow success. The first page is all reminders of things that you should be doing when teaching APE. For example, space. Make sure if your gym is really big, you're dividing it into small sections. Sometimes a really big gym is just way too overwhelming for our students. And make sure you're removing any other materials around the gym. The next thing is visuals, which we just went over, but you can definitely have a schedule, have some picture symbols, Have your stations labeled so they know what's expected of them and it's not just words. Signal, so use a consistent signal from transitioning. So it can be a clap, it can be a whistle, anything that is just consistent. You use it every class, they know that's when they need to start and when they need to stop. And then the schedule is what we are going to go over. Communication and collaboration, make sure you're talking to other teacher assistants and the EC teachers to see how they're doing and how the AP is helping them and if they're making progress on their goals. And then differentiating instruction, of course, we do that all day long, differentiating activities to meet individual needs, and then always promoting inclusion. That's a big one. We really hope that most of our schools are having our Gen Ed students attend with our special needs students so they can all work together. So here is our small group AP schedule. It's just a sample. It's an example for what our teachers can do. Not everyone follows it exactly, but a lot of our new teachers will, just because it gives them that structure so they can start it out that way. The first thing is you're welcome, so you greet the students at the door. And then we have lap time. So start class promptly, have students move right away, get that energy out first. And then you have group time. And you're going to guide students through those movements. And just so you all know, these are the numbers that are in our 360. So 1 through, I think it's 6 or 7 are all of these. So number 1 is welcome, number 2 is lap time, number 3 is group time. So that's how we kind of made the 360 around our schedule. And then we have activity practice. So that's your modified game, your practice for Special Olympics, your goal-specific skills, your stations, anything like that. And then your closure activity, just lead a final activity. It might be stretches, it might be walking 2 laps, and then exiting the gym, making sure they're lining up and they're calm before they're heading back to their class. All right, the last thing I have to go over is this little question mark. So the question mark above the classroom management handout is the same handout I just went over. It's just specific to a remote or virtual classroom. It explains how to utilize the same schedule while teaching virtually. I'm just going to show you that really quickly. So it has these same steps. We have welcome, lap time, group time, but it's a little bit different because obviously these students may be at home or they might be social distancing in class. You still welcome the students, you still show them your visual schedule, and then you have your warm-up, which might be a movement. We even have some suggestions linked here. And then group time, we have some basic stretches linked up here, your activity and practice. We even have a video showing you how to set up breakout rooms because some of our PE teachers don't know how to do that. To be honest, I'm not very good at that. And then your focus of the days and how we also linked in some equipment modifications for home. So if a student doesn't have a ball, they can use a pair of rolled up socks or a piece of paper crumpled up. And then we have suggestions for that too. And then your closure activity, we just suggest a fun and engagement movement or dance video. And then you have your exit. And then here are some APE remote learning reminders. They're very similar, but we just added additional tips for virtual. Have a plain background during Zoom so there's not as many distractions. Take time to say hi to each student. Show them your name on a piece of paper or have it on your Zoom. Place an iPad with a timer going so they know exactly how long they have for each activity. Just little things like that. All right, well, now Amy is going to take over and go over the last few parts of our 360. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Jamie. The next area to discuss is environment. Whether you're in a classroom, outside, your gym, you want to try and minimize the distractions as much as possible and keep your students focused and on task. An example here are the steps and the stage, as most gyms are multi-purpose rooms. And our students love to run up and down the stairs, wrap themselves up in the heavy curtain, and run around in the backstage, which usually is a hot mess of disasters waiting to happen. So you may want to line up some cones on the bottom step, use some visuals of a stop sign so that the students learn that that whole area is off limits. The next thing that you want to keep off limits is your climbing wall. If you're not using your climbing wall, you want to stand up some mats and cover that whole area so that they don't have access to the handholds. Just as you did that in the other corner of the gym where you had extra equipment, you want to try and create a boundary around it so that the students stay safe and they're not apt to go climbing around on things they shouldn't be. Next, we want to talk about your stations or your game time. As you used your cones for walking laps in the beginning of class, you can now turn them into your stations. Using visuals, this helps your teachers, teacher assistants, and the students understand what the expectation is at that particular station. It also lends itself very nicely to physical literacy for your students, whether they can read the directions or whether they can interpret the directions via pictures, then that's great and just a bonus. One thing you want to do when you're doing stations or a whole group activity is to make sure you're doing it long enough to give our students time to really learn the skills. It takes them that extra time and extra practice as opposed to your gen ed students. So it's okay to do these things 4 to 6 class sessions in a row. Once they learn it, then you can move on and build upon those skills. A recommendation we have is to switch out one station at a time. So that way they don't come in and have everything completely new. They just have maybe one station out of the 4 that is a new activity. That keeps things fresh, but it also keeps them working on the other 3 station skills that they need to, and they don't get bored with everything you're doing. Next, I want to talk about your closure activity, your cool down. One nice thing you can do is use those cones again to walk 1 or 2 laps to some very relaxing music. You can have them come back to the poly spots that you used earlier in the class, and they can do some yoga poses. You can do some breathing exercises, and you want to bring everybody back to a level that they are prepared to go back into the classroom to learn. As you know, PE is usually a preferred activity for a lot of our students because they get to move, they get to get the wiggles out, and it's hard for some of our students to transition out of PE. So with these routines in place, your students can learn what comes next. And lastly, I want to discuss how they exit. Do you have a line? Usually they line up at the door, and then when everybody's set, they can leave. You've now done your closure activity, brought their heart rate down, kind of gotten everybody calmed down and settled. You can use poly spots. You can use lines that exist on your gym floor. You might want to put down some floor tape. However you want to do it, just make sure that it's the same so that they know. It should come to a point that they know what to do without you having to constantly herd cats to get people back in line to leave your gym. Okay, well, I hope you enjoyed this 360 view. And what I'd like to do now is open it up for questions that you may have.